The mysterious rescue. Jack walked carefully through the dense jungle of Typhos 9, his boots sinking into the soft, mossy ground. Tall, twisted trees stretched high above him, their thick green leaves blocking most of the sunlight. Strange glowing insects buzzed around, casting an eerie light over the misty air. He gripped his blaster tightly, scanning the area for any sign of danger. This planet was dangerous. He had been warned. But Jack was an explorer, and danger was just part of the job. As he stepped over a fallen tree, he heard a soft whimper. He froze. It wasn't the sound of any wild animal he knew. It was something different, weak, scared. Jack moved slowly toward the sound, pushing aside thick vines. His eyes widened when he saw a small, strange creature lying on the ground. It was covered in soft silver fur, and its tiny body trembled. Its large, glowing blue eyes stared up at him, full of fear and pain. The creature had a deep gash on its side, and its breathing was slow and uneven. Jack could see a trail of blood leading from the deeper part of the jungle. It had been running from something. Jack knelt beside it. "Hey, little one," he said softly. "What happened to you?" The creature let out a weak chirping sound but didn't move. Jack noticed its small, delicate fingers clutching its side. It was trying to stop the bleeding. He glanced around. Something had hurt this creature, and whatever it was, could still be nearby. Jack reached into his bag and pulled out a medical patch. "All right, let's get you patched up," he murmured. He carefully pressed the patch over the wound, and the creature flinched but didn't resist. Then a sound made Jack's heart jump. A deep guttural growl came from the shadows of the jungle. Jack spun around, gripping his blaster. The thick mist made it hard to see, but something large was moving between the trees. A predator. Jack's muscles tensed. If this creature had been running, then maybe. Karai-seiki. A branch snapped nearby. Jack scooped up the injured creature and backed away, keeping his blaster raised. He couldn't stay here. He had to move. The jungle was silent now, except for the creature's soft, shaky breaths against his chest. Jack moved quickly, stepping over roots and ducking under thick vines. Every step he took, he listened for sounds behind him. Then he heard it. Heavy footsteps. It was following him. Jack cursed under his breath and picked up the pace. He had to get back to his camp. His ship was there, and once inside, he could analyze the creature's wounds and figure out what was hunting them. Suddenly, the jungle opened into a small clearing. His camp was just on the other side. He could see the dim lights of his ship through the trees. Relief washed over him. But then, a shadow moved in the trees behind him. Jack didn't wait. He ran. A loud snarl echoed through the clearing. Something leaped. Jack barely dodged as a massive beast crashed into the ground where he had just been. It was taller than a man, covered in dark, spiky fur. Its long claws dug into the ground, and its glowing red eyes locked onto him. The predator sniffed the air and let out a low, hungry growl. Jack raised his blaster and fired. A bright blue energy blast shot through the air, hitting the beast's side. It roared in anger but didn't fall. It only looked angrier. Jack didn't hesitate. He turned and sprinted toward his ship. The predator charged after him, crashing through the undergrowth like a living nightmare. The ship's ramp was already open. Jack jumped onto it, nearly slipping as he held onto the small creature tightly. He slammed his fist against the control panel. The ramp began to rise. The predator lunged, but the metal door sealed shut just in time. Jack collapsed against the wall, breathing hard. The creature in his arms was trembling, but it was still alive. Outside, the predator let out a furious roar, scratching at the metal, but it couldn't get inside. Jack let out a breath and looked down at the creature. "Well, that was close," he muttered. The small creature stared up at him, its glowing blue eyes filled with something strange. Something human. Jack frowned. "What are you?" The creature slowly reached out a tiny silver hand and touched his arm. Then, in a weak voice, It whispered, "Help me." Jack's eyes widened. This wasn't just an animal. This was something else. And saving it might have just changed everything. The transformation begins. Jack sat in the dim light of his ship's cabin, his heart still pounding from the chase. The metal walls hummed with the quiet vibrations of the ship's systems, offering a false sense of safety. Outside, the jungle was still alive with unseen dangers, but for now, he was safe. His attention turned to the small creature lying on the examination table. Its silver fur shimmered faintly, and its breathing was slow but steady. The wound on its side was already healing, thanks to the medical patch Jack had applied. But that wasn't what troubled him. It had spoken, not in growls or chirps like an animal, but in a soft, weak, yet undeniably intelligent voice. "Help me." Jack had traveled to many planets. He had seen strange creatures, ancient ruins, and even hostile aliens. But this was different. He leaned closer. "You can talk." The creature's glowing blue eyes fluttered open, filled with something deep, something almost human. Its small fingers twitched, gripping the edge of the blanket Jack had wrapped around it. It looked at him, studied him. Then, after a long silence, it nodded. Jack exhaled sharply. "Well, that's new. A strange change." Hours passed. The creature remained weak, but Jack noticed something strange. Its body was changing. At first, it was subtle. The fur on its arms began to recede, revealing smooth, silver-tinged skin underneath. Its limbs stretched slightly, its fingers becoming more defined. Jack observed carefully, running scans with his ship's medical equipment. The readings made no sense. Its genetic structure was shifting, as if it was rewriting itself. Then, the transformation accelerated. The creature trembled, eyes squeezing shut as its form stretched, reshaped, evolved. Its small, delicate body grew taller, its limbs elongating into a humanoid shape. Its face changed, the snout-like features softening into something closer to a young girl. Jack took a step back. What the hell? He watched, wide-eyed, as the creature, no, the girl, slowly opened her eyes. They were still glowing blue, but now they held knowledge, fear, and recognition. "I am Lyrian." Jack swallowed hard. His hand hovered near his blaster, but he didn't reach for it. He wasn't sure if this was a miracle or a nightmare. The girl, no longer just a small alien creature, sat up weakly. Her silver-toned skin caught the light, her hair now long and flowing like strands of liquid metal. She looked down at herself, her fingers touching her face in wonder. Then she turned to Jack. "I'd remember now." Her voice was soft but steady. Jack's grip tightened. "Remember what?" She took a slow breath. "I am Lyrian. I was not always like this." Jack frowned. "Then what were you?" Lyrian hesitated, then met his gaze. "I was made." The hidden truth. Jack felt a chill creep up his spine. "Made?" he repeated. "By who?" Lyrian's expression darkened. "By those who hunt me." The memories were coming back to her now, pieces of a puzzle she had long forgotten. She had been born in a laboratory, not a womb. Created, designed, experimented on. She had been one of many. They wanted to build a weapon. She murmured, her voice barely above a whisper, something that could destroy or control. Jack felt his stomach twist. He had heard of genetic experiments before. He had seen the horrors left behind by scientists who played God. But there was something more to this, something deeper. He sat down across from her. "Who are they?" Lyrian shivered, wrapping her arms around herself. "They are called the Zenith Order. They are not from one planet. They are from many. They take creatures like me. They use us. They make us forget what we were." Jack clenched his fists. A powerful, hidden force experimenting on living beings. He had heard rumors of groups like this in the far reaches of space, but never had he encountered proof. Until now. Lyrian lifted her hand. A soft glow appeared in her palm, like the faint flicker of a dying star. "They did not know what I could become," she said. "They thought I was just a failed experiment." Jack stared at the light in her palm. It pulsed gently, as if waiting to be awakened. He had a bad feeling about this. "What happens if they find you?" he asked. Lyrian closed her hand, and the glow vanished. "They will kill me." Silence filled the room. Jack exhaled slowly. This was bigger than he had expected. He had only wanted to explore, to map the jungle. Now he was caught in something far more dangerous. A hunted girl with powers she didn't fully understand. A secret organization that would stop at nothing to reclaim her. Jack rubbed his temples. "All right," he muttered. "That's just perfect." Lyrian watched him with quiet intensity. "You should let me go," she said. "It's safer for you." Jack scoffed. "Oh, sure. I'll just drop you back in the jungle and let the monsters eat you." "Great plan." She blinked, surprised. "You would keep me here." Jack sighed. He wasn't sure what he had gotten himself into. But one thing was certain, he couldn't just leave her to die. "Look," he said, standing up. "I don't know what's going on yet, but I'm not about to let some secret alien organization come knocking on my door without a fight." He checked the ship's radar. No signals, yet. But that wouldn't last. "They'll come looking," he muttered. "And when they do, we'll be ready." Lyrian looked at him, something unreadable in her glowing eyes. For the first time in her life, someone wasn't running from her. She nodded. And in that moment, Jack knew this was just the beginning. The hunters arrive. The hum of Jack's ship filled the cabin, a soft mechanical sound that should have been comforting. But tonight, it felt like a whisper before a storm. The jungle outside was still, too still. No distant growls, no rustling leaves, just silence. Jack didn't like silence. Lyrian sat across from him, wrapped in a blanket. She had barely spoken since her transformation. Her silver-toned fingers traced patterns on the table, lost in thought. Jack was trying to process everything. Just a few hours ago, she had been a small, wounded creature. Now she was a humanoid girl with glowing blue eyes, an unknown past, and powers that scared even her. And worst of all, someone was after her. Jack leaned forward, his fingers tapping against the control panel. "All right, kid. If these Zenith guys are as bad as you say, then we need a plan." Lyrian didn't respond at first. When she finally spoke, her voice was quiet. "They will find me," she said. "They always do." Jack frowned. "Not if I have anything to say about it." She shook her head. "You don't understand. They can track me." That made him stop. Jack's stomach tightened. "What do you mean, track you?" Lyrian hesitated. Then, with slow, careful movements, she pulled back her silver hair, revealing the side of her neck. Jack's breath caught. A small metallic implant was embedded just beneath her skin, barely noticeable under the soft glow of her skin. "Dame," Jack muttered. "They tagged you." She nodded. "If they are not here already, they will be soon." Jack jumped to his feet. "All right, then we have no time to waste." He grabbed a small toolkit from the shelf and knelt beside her. "I need to get this out." Lyrian hesitated. "It will hurt." Jack smirked. "Good thing I don't charge for medical services." She gave a small, almost amused huff, but it quickly faded as Jack activated his laser scalpel. The second the blade touched the implant, Lyrian jerked violently. Her body glowed for a split second, and the ship's lights flickered. Jack reeled back. "Whoa! Okay, I need you to not fry my ship." Lyrian gritted her teeth, her whole body trembling. "It reacts to me, to my power." Jack cursed under his breath. Of course it does. He had to be careful. If he wasn't, he might trigger a signal, a beacon calling the hunters straight to them. With slow, precise movements, Jack worked around the implant, avoiding any unnecessary pressure. Lyrian's glowing eyes squeezed shut, but she didn't make a sound. Then, a soft metallic click. Jack held up the small silver device. Got it. Lyrian exhaled shakily, her shoulders slumping. Thank you. Jack didn't have time to respond. Because at that moment, his ship's alarm blared. They were here. They found us. Jack ran to the cockpit, his fingers flying over the controls. The ship's scanners picked up 4 incoming signals, closing in fast. Through the dense jungle, strange lights flickered. Dark ships, black as shadow, hovering between the trees. Silent. Deadly. Damn it, Jack growled. They're fast. Lyrian stood behind him, her eyes glowing faintly. They are already searching. Jack grabbed his blaster and turned to her. We need to move. Now. But before he could take a step, a deep voice echoed through the jungle. Lyrian, we know you are here. The words sent a cold shiver down Jack's spine. Lyrian stiffened. That's him. Jack peered through the ship's exterior cameras. A tall, armored figure stood in the clearing. His face was hidden behind a sleek, expressionless helmet, and his voice was calm, emotionless, terrifying. Come out, little one, the figure called. Your escape ends here. Jack felt a flare of anger. Whoever these guys were, they acted like they owned her, like she wasn't a living being with her own choices. Lyrian swallowed. He is a warden. Their best tracker. Jack clenched his jaw. Yeah. Well, I don't care if he's the damn king of space bounty hunters. He's not getting you. But Lyrian's expression was troubled. Jack, they do not take prisoners. If they see you helping me, they will kill you. Jack checked his blaster. They can try. The hunters close in. Outside, 3 more figures stepped into the clearing, their armor gleaming under the alien moonlight. They moved in perfect unison, silent, controlled. Jack didn't wait. He flipped a switch on his panel, activating the ship's automated defense turret. The turret fired, a rapid burst of blue energy shots. The wardens didn't even flinch. They moved too fast. Before the shots could land, they'd vanished, blurring like shadows shifting through light. Jack's stomach dropped. What the hell? Then, the ship shook violently. Jack stumbled as red warning lights flashed across the control panel. The ship's engine was hit. Jack, Lyrian shouted. They are trying to disable us. Jack gritted his teeth. They weren't trying to destroy the ship. They were trying to trap them. No way in, no way out. He turned to Lyrian. Do you trust me? She blinked, startled. What? Do you trust me? Jack repeated. Lyrian hesitated, then nodded. Good, Jack said. Then hold on. The escape plan. Jack slammed his fist against the emergency switch. The ship's landing thrusters fired at full power, blasting dust and debris into the air. The jungle lit up like fire, momentarily blinding the wardens. Before they could react, Jack grabbed Lyrian's hand and pulled her toward the side hatch. We're not staying, Jack growled. We're running. Lyrian didn't argue. She followed. The side hatch opened, and Jack jumped first, landing in the thick jungle undergrowth. Lyrian landed beside him. Behind them, the ship continued to fire defensive shots, keeping the wardens distracted. Jack grabbed her wrist. We head east. There's a cave system. If we make it there, we disappear. Lyrian nodded. Then we run. And they did. As the jungle swallowed them whole, the wardens stood in the clearing, watching them flee. The leader tilted his head. Interesting, he murmured. The human thinks he can save her. He turned to his team. Follow them, but do not kill the girl. He lifted his weapon, aiming it toward Jack's fading figure. The human, however, is expendable. The hidden power. The jungle was alive with the sound of pursuit. Jack's breath came fast and heavy as he sprinted through the thick undergrowth, his boots crunching against fallen leaves and twisted roots. Lyrian was right beside him, moving with surprising speed despite her exhaustion. The alien moonlight barely pierced the thick canopy above, making the world around them feel like a shifting maze of shadows. Behind them, the wardens were closing in. They weren't running. They didn't need to. They moved methodically, efficiently, their dark silhouettes flickering in and out of view like ghosts. Silent hunters. Unstoppable. Jack cursed under his breath. This wasn't a chase. It was a game. And he and Lyrian were the prey. Up ahead, the land sloped downward. Jack pulled Lyrian forward. Come on. We need to lose them. She didn't argue. She trusted him now. The two of them slid down a steep incline, dirt and rock tumbling beneath their feet. At the bottom, a river cut through the jungle, its dark waters rushing fast and deep. Jack scanned the area. A cave, he muttered. There's gotta be. Before he could finish, a sharp crack rang out. A tree just meters behind them exploded into splinters. Jack threw himself to the ground, pulling Lyrian down with him. Energy projectiles ripped through the trees, burning holes through bark and rock. The wardens had started firing. Lyrian's breathing was shaky. They will not stop, she whispered. Jack gritted his teeth. Yeah, well, neither will we. Then he saw it. A dark opening in the side of a rocky cliff just past the river. A cave. That's it, Jack pointed. We get inside. We can lose them in the tunnels. Lyrian hesitated. The caves are old, she said. I feel something. Strange. Yeah, well, strange is better than dead. Jack grabbed her wrist and ran for the river. The water was icy cold, but Jack barely noticed as he waded through. Lyrian gasped at the shock of it, but kept moving. The current was strong, trying to pull them downstream, but Jack fought against it, dragging them forward. Behind them, the wardens did not follow. They stopped at the river's edge, watching, waiting. Jack reached the other side, pulling Lyrian up onto the rocks. He looked back, confused. Why aren't they? Then, the warden leader raised a hand. Something hummed in the air. A pulse, deep and vibrating, sent ripples through the water. Jack's skin prickled with static. Lyrian's grip on his arm tightened. They are calling something, she whispered. Then, a shape rose from the river. Jack's stomach dropped. A serpentine figure, its body half water, half shadow, emerged from the depths. Its glowing eyes locked onto them. Jack had seen a lot of things in his time as an explorer. This was new. Run, he shouted. The two of them bolted for the cave, the massive river beast surging after them. They barely made it inside before the creature struck, its watery form slamming against the rock entrance with a force that shook the ground. Darkness swallowed them whole. The ancient ruins. Jack's pulse pounded in his ears as he tried to catch his breath. The cave stretched deep into the mountainside, the walls smooth and unnaturally cold. Strange symbols lined the passage, glowing faint blue in the dark. Lyrian ran her fingers across them. This place, it is old, she murmured. Older than the wardens, older than me. Jack studied the symbols. He had seen a lot of ancient ruins, but this felt different. Deeper inside, the tunnel widened into a massive chamber. The air was thick with energy. In the center of the room, a large stone monolith stood, pulsing softly with blue light. Jack approached cautiously. What is this place? Lyrian's hands trembled as she stepped closer. I don't know. Then, the light in the monolith flared. Jack staggered back as a wave of energy rushed through the chamber. His vision blurred, and for a moment, he thought he could hear whispers. Lyrian gasped. Her body glowed. Jack's eyes widened. Lyrian. Her knees buckled, but before she could fall, Jack caught her. Her voice was weak. This place, it's waking something up. Jack looked back at the monolith. The glowing patterns on its surface were moving now, shifting like liquid light. Then a voice echoed through the chamber. "Lyrian, you have returned." Jack spun around, blaster raised, but there was no one there. Lyrian clutched her head, her eyes glowing brighter than before. I remember something." Jack grabbed her shoulders. "Lyrian, talk to me. What's happening?" She gasped. "I was not meant to be a weapon. I was meant to be a guardian." Jack blinked. A guardian of what? Lyrian turned toward the monolith, her glowing eyes filled with something new. Understanding. Then the ground shook. Outside the cave, the wardens were coming. Jack tightened his grip on his blaster. Whatever was happening to Lyrian, whatever she had awakened, he just hoped it was enough. The ancient ruins. The cavern trembled around them, sending dust and tiny rocks falling from the ceiling. Jack steadied himself against the cold stone wall, his blaster raised, his heartbeat pounding like a drum in his ears. Lyrian stood in front of the ancient monolith, her silver-toned hands pressed against its glowing surface. The light pulsed in slow, rhythmic waves, sensing with her breath, as if the structure itself were alive. Recognizing her, Jack had no idea what was happening, but he knew one thing. They were out of time. The wardens were coming. Outside, the distant thudding footsteps of their pursuers grew louder. The cave's entrance still rumbled from the force of the river beast's attack, but Jack knew the wardens would find another way in. And when they did, they wouldn't ask questions. Jack turned to Lyrian, his voice sharp. "Whatever is happening to you, we need to figure it out fast." Lyrian barely heard him. Her eyes glowed bright, her face filled with something between awe and fear. "It's speaking to me," she whispered. Jack frowned. "Goo. The memories," she said, breathless. "They were taken from me. But they are still here, locked inside this place." The monolith pulsed faster, its blue light flickering as the symbols on its surface shifted and rearranged themselves. Then, a deep hum filled the chamber. Jack felt his teeth vibrate as a hidden mechanism clicked into place. The ground split open beneath the monolith, revealing a descending staircase, spiraling into darkness. Lyrian turned to Jack, her eyes filled with urgency. "We have to go down." Jack stared at the black void below them. Every instinct screamed at him to stay on solid ground. "Down," he echoed. "Yeah, sure. Into the creepy underground tomb where mysterious voices whisper in your head." "Great idea." Lyrian's fingers clenched into fists. "They are coming, Jack. We don't have a choice." Jack sighed. He hated when she was right. "Fine," he muttered. "But if we get eaten by some ancient underground horror, I'm blaming you." Descent into the unknown. The stairs were narrow, winding downward in an unbroken spiral. The air grew colder the deeper they went, the damp scent of ancient stone filling Jack's lungs. The walls were lined with strange carvings, depicting humanoid figures surrounded by swirling lights. Some were standing in circles, hands raised toward a floating symbol that looked eerily familiar. Jack ran his fingers over one of the carvings. "This looks like me," Lyrian finished. Jack turned to her, startled. "Wait, you're saying these people knew you?" Lyrian shook her head. "Not me, but others like me." She traced the swirling symbols with her fingertips. "This was a sanctuary, a place for my kind to hide." "But the wardens," she stopped, her expression darkening. "The wardens destroy them." Jack let out a slow breath. This was bigger than he had thought. Then, a loud explosion rumbled from above. Jack's grip on his blaster tightened. "They're inside." Lyrian grabbed his wrist. "We have to keep moving." The tunnel led them into a vast underground chamber. At the center stood a massive metallic door, covered in glowing glyphs, similar to the monolith above. But something was different. The glyphs were flickering, as if waiting for something. Lyrian stepped forward. The moment she reached out, the air in the chamber crackled with energy. The ground trembled beneath them. The door's surface rippled like liquid metal as its symbols flared to life. Jack's instincts screamed at him to step back. "Lyrian, I don't think." Too late. The glyphs surged with light, and Lyrian collapsed. Lyrian's awakening. Jack lunged forward, catching her before she hit the ground. Her body burned with heat, her skin flickering between her humanoid form and something not quite solid. "Lyrian, talk to me." Jack shook her lightly. Her eyes snapped open, but they were no longer blue. They burned white-hot, pure energy crackling in their depths. Then she spoke, but it wasn't her voice. "The Guardian has awakened." Jack stiffened. His breath caught in his throat. Something else was speaking through her. "You are the last." The voice continued. "The others are gone. But you still have a choice." Jack felt a chill creep up his spine. He had faced a lot of things before, but watching an ancient force speak through Lyrian's body, that was new. "Who are you?" he demanded. "What do you want from her?" Lyrian's glowing gaze turned toward him, and for the first time, he felt like the one being studied. "She is the key. The last hope." Jack clenched his fists. Hope for what? The air rippled around them, and suddenly the symbols on the massive door shifted. The metal unlocked, grinding as it began to open. Beyond it, a vast chamber was revealed. And at the center of it, a floating, pulsating core of energy. Jack's mind reeled. It was like a star contained in a cage of metal and stone. Lyrian gasped. "I remember now." Jack turned to her. "What do you mean?" Lyrian's glowing fingers twitched as she took a step forward. "This is why the wardens hunt me." Jack stared at the energy core, a sick feeling in his gut. "Lyrian, what exactly is that?" She looked at him. "The power to destroy them. The final stand begins." The chamber shuddered, and from behind them, the sound of marching footsteps echoed through the tunnels. The wardens had arrived. Jack turned, blaster raised. "Lyrian, whatever that thing is, can you use it?" Lyrian hesitated. "I don't know." Jack growled in frustration. "Then we're about to find out." The first warden stepped into the chamber, his glowing weapon humming with lethal energy. The leader's helmet tilted slightly as he observed them. Then, in a cold, unshaken voice, he said, "Take the girl. Kill the human." Jack gritted his teeth. Over his dead body, Lyrian's hands glowed brighter as she turned to face them. The energy core behind her pulsed in rhythm with her breath. Jack had no idea how this was going to end, but one thing was certain. This was their last stand, the final battle. The cavern trembled beneath their feet. Energy pulsed from the floating core, casting shifting shadows across the stone walls. Jack stood with his blaster raised, his finger tight on the trigger. 4 wardens stood at the entrance, their armored forms eerily still. The leader of the wardens tilted his head slightly, as if considering them. His voice was cold, emotionless. "Take the girl. Kill the human." Jack didn't wait for them to make the first move. He fired. A blue energy bolt shot across the cavern, hitting the nearest warden in the chest. The force barely made him stumble. The armor absorbed the blast, like it was nothing. Jack cursed. Of course it wouldn't be that easy. Then, they moved. The wardens blurred forward, their bodies shifting like living shadows. Too fast. Jack dove sideways just as an energy blade sliced through the space where he had been standing. He rolled, came up on one knee, and fired again. Miss. A second warden swung a glowing staff, aiming for Jack's head. He barely dodged in time, feeling the heat of the weapon sear past his face. Lyrian wasn't moving. She stood near the core, her eyes wide, her hands flickering with unstable energy. "Lyrian," Jack shouted. "I could use some of that power right about now." But she didn't hear him. Her breath was ragged, her whole body trembling. Something was happening to her, something she didn't understand. The leader stepped forward, watching her with careful interest. "You are incomplete," he mused. "You do not yet know what you are." Lyrian's glowing eyes snapped to him, her fists clenched. "I know enough," she hissed. The warden raised a single hand, and the room erupted with power. A wave of force blasted outward, sending Jack flying into a pillar. Pain exploded through his ribs. He gasped, his blaster slipping from his grip. The wardens didn't even flinch. They advanced toward Lyrian, closing in. And then, the core behind her pulsed. The glyphs on the cavern walls flared to life, burning bright blue. Ancient energy filled the chamber, humming like 1,000 voices whispering at once. Lyrian gasped. Then she screamed. The power unleashed. Jack watched in stunned disbelief as light erupted from Lyrian's body. The air around her crackled with raw energy, lifting her slightly off the ground. Her silver-toned skin pulsed between solid and translucent, as if she were caught between two forms. The wardens stopped. For the first time, they hesitated. The leader took a single step forward, his helmet tilting slightly. Impossible. Lyrian's glowing eyes snapped to him. Her voice, when she spoke, was not just her own. It was layered, ancient, powerful. "I am not incomplete. I am the last." The cavern shook violently. Jack shielded his eyes as a massive shockwave blasted outward. The nearest warden was thrown backward, slamming into the cavern wall with a sickening crunch. Another was ripped off his feet and sent sprawling across the stone floor. Jack's heart pounded. This wasn't just power. This was something else entirely. The wardens strike back. The leader didn't falter. He stepped forward, unfazed by the destruction around him. "You do not understand what you wield," he said calmly. "Power without control is nothing." Jack didn't like how calm he sounded. The remaining two wardens recovered quickly. Their weapons shifted, transforming, their energy blades extending into longer, spear-like forms. Jack cursed. They weren't giving up. One of them charged at Lyrian. Fast, precise, lethal. Jack didn't think. He grabbed a broken piece of the fallen pillar, swung it as hard as he could, and smashed it into the warden's side. The impact was barely enough to make the warden stumble, but it gave Lyrian time. She raised her hands. A pulse of pure energy erupted from her palms. The warden was lifted into the air, his body twisting violently before he was slammed into the cavern floor with bone-crushing force. Jack stared. Holy. He didn't get to finish. The final warden lunged at him. Jack braced himself, but the attack never came. Instead, the warden froze. Not by choice. Lyrian was holding him in place. Her fingers trembled, her whole body shaking under the weight of her power. The warden's armor cracked under the pressure. Jack swallowed hard. She was going to kill him. For the first time, he saw fear in the warden's glowing eyes. "Lyrian," Jack said carefully, stepping toward her. "Let him go." Her hands trembled. "They would not show us mercy." Jack held her gaze. "Yeah, but that's what makes us different." Silence. The warden gasped for air, struggling against her grip. Finally, Lyrian released him. The warden collapsed, unmoving. The leader watched, his head tilting slightly. "You hesitate. That is weakness." Jack snorted. "And yet you just lost." The leader remained silent for a moment, then slowly lowered his weapon. "No," he said simply. "This is only the beginning." Before Jack could react, the wardens vanished. Gone. Like shadows fading into mist. The battle was over. But Jack knew this war had only just begun. Aftermath and realization. Lyrian stood still, staring at her hands. The power had faded, but the memory of it lingered in the air, thick and heavy. Jack let out a slow breath. "Well," he muttered, "I'd say that was a hell of a first fight." Lyrian didn't respond. Jack frowned. "Lyrian?" She finally looked at him. "I was going to kill him." Jack nodded. "Yeah, but I didn't." Jack gave her a small, tired smile. "That's what matters." Lyrian looked back at the now dormant core, the source of her awakening. This power, It's inside me now. It was always inside me. Jack crossed his arms. So, what do we do now? Lyrian exhaled. We find the others. Jack raised an eyebrow. Others? Lyrian turned to him. The ones they didn't erase. Jack sighed. And let me guess. That means more wardens, more running, and a whole lot of trouble. She smiled. Yes. Jack shook his head. Perfect. But despite himself, he was grinning. This wasn't just survival anymore. This was a revolution, the ultimate decision. The cavern was silent, except for the distant echoes of dripping water and the fading hum of ancient energy. Jack took a deep breath, his body sore from the battle, his blaster still warm in his grip. Across from him, Lyrian stood before the dormant core, her glowing eyes reflecting the dim light. She was different now. Not just in power, but in presence. She no longer looked lost. She no longer looked afraid. But Jack could see it in her stance, the weight of realization. She had the power to destroy the wardens, to end them. But she also had the power to do something else, to change everything. Jack stepped forward, rolling his shoulder, feeling the dull ache of bruises beneath his jacket. So, he said, his voice casual despite the exhaustion. You gonna tell me what comes next, or are we just winging it? Lyrian didn't answer at first. She reached out, placing her hand on the core's surface. The metallic glyphs pulsed faintly beneath her fingers, like a heartbeat waiting to restart. They will return, she said quietly. The wardens, they will not stop. Jack smirked. Yeah, well, neither do we. Lyrian turned to him. This is different, Jack. He folded his arms. How different? She hesitated. Then, with slow precision, she lifted her hand. The air shimmered as a sphere of pulsing blue light formed in her palm. It twisted like a miniature star, radiating power unlike anything Jack had ever seen. And in the center of that light, Jack could see something else. A vision. A fleet of black ships cutting through space. Massive. Endless. A war stretching across entire planets. People. Humans. Aliens. Hybrids. Running. Hiding. Fighting. Then the image shifted. He saw Lyrian standing at the heart of it all. But she wasn't running. She wasn't hiding. She was leading. Jack's heart pounded. You're seeing the future, aren't you? Lyrian let the energy flicker out, the vision vanishing as the sphere collapsed. She closed her eyes. Not the future, she whispered. The choice. Jack exhaled. Let me guess. That vision only happens if we fight back. Lyrian nodded. The wardens, they will keep hunting, keep taking, but I can stop them. Jack studied her carefully. He could see it, the hesitation in her hands, the tension in her shoulders. She wasn't afraid of losing. She was afraid of becoming what they feared. You think if you fight, you'll turn into them, Jack said quietly. Lyrian turned away. What if I do? Jack sighed. He wasn't a philosopher. He wasn't some grand strategist. He was just a guy who had decided to help a scared creature in the jungle. And somehow, that had led them here. Look, he said, stepping beside her. You've got power, yeah. More than anyone I've ever seen. And yeah, that scares you. But you're not a weapon, Lyrian. She met his gaze. Then what am I? Jack shrugged. You're you. And that means you get to choose. Lyrian looked at him for a long moment. Then, slowly, she nodded. And she made her decision. The last stand. Lyrian turned back to the core. She raised both hands, and the glyphs burned brighter. The energy surged around her, crackling like an oncoming storm. Jack took a step back. The monolith shook as columns of blue light erupted from the walls, cascading upward like fire ascending to the stars. Jack's radio crackled. He frowned, tapping it. What the hell? A voice, distorted, but clear enough. Unknown energy spike detected. Multiple wardens inbound. Prepare for impact. Jack cursed. They're coming. Lyrian didn't look away from the core. Then we must finish this. The chamber rumbled as ancient technology awakened. The dormant core expanded, its light burning into the stone like veins of molten energy. And then, the cavern walls peeled open. Jack's mouth went dry. Beyond the cave, the jungle had been replaced by a sky filled with incoming ships. Hundreds. The wardens weren't coming. They were already here. Jack's fingers twitched over his blaster. So, what's the plan, exactly? Lyrian lifted her hands. The entire cavern shook. Outside, the first warden descended from the sky. His armored boots hit the ground with a heavy thud. He straightened, and the entire fleet followed. Then he spoke. "You have no army, no allies. This fight is meaningless." Jack gritted his teeth. "Yeah, well, we'll see about that." Lyrian's eyes burned. "I am not alone." She lifted her hands, and the sky itself split open. The final strike. Jack barely had time to react before the energy from the core exploded outward. The glyphs on the cavern walls sent pulses of blue fire into the sky, streaking toward the warden's fleet. Ships veered off course. Engines failed. Weapons short-circuited. But it wasn't just an attack. It was a signal. From the horizon, other ships appeared. Small, fast, agile. Jack's eyes widened. Who the hell? Lyrian smiled. The ones they didn't erase. The survivors. The others like her. Jack let out a sharp breath, a grin tugging at his lips. Now that's what I'm talking about. The first strike hit the wardens hard. Their ships, once untouchable, began to fall. Lyrian turned to Jack. "This war isn't over." Jack smirked. "Good. I wasn't ready for retirement anyway." And with that, they charged into battle. Epilogue. A new beginning. The war would last for years. The wardens would not fall easily. But Lyrian had made her choice. She would not be their weapon. She would not be their prisoner. She would be the one thing they never expected. A leader. A symbol of hope. And as Jack stood beside her, blaster ready, watching the sky burn with the first real fight against the wardens, he knew one thing for certain. Saving that small creature in the jungle had changed the galaxy forever. And this was just the beginning.